everyone. Welcome to Zeiders American Dream Theater's production of Distant Survivors. We would ask at this time that you please silence your cell phones. Take a moment to do that. Please note that we are recording the performance for archival purposes tonight, but we ask that you refrain from recording or taking any photos to respect the actors. And then please, we invite you to join us for a community conversation after the show, led by our very special guest, Rabbi Kanitz. All right, Zeiders American Dream Theater's Distant Survivors.
Canes and armless coats haunt these German streets I force myself to walk. Factories smoke the sky. A few days ago I saw those Bremerhaven graves. Unadorned stones honor our simpler dust. I almost knelt to save a leaf of ivy. I even heard the dead were glad that I'd returned. The line of World War I veterans, my mother's father among them, stood at attention on the Bremerhaven dock. Gusts of brine wind laughed at the Fuhrer's black leather coat. But he took his time, took each man's hands in his own, thanked each for his sacrifice. He, of the luminous, wounded blue eyes, seeing my grandfather's prisoner of war medal, asked where and how long. Russia, 2 years, my grandfather answered, then added, I escaped. His beloved Führer embraced him in moments of blue flame. But behind them, Das Reich, their new battleship, loomed. For the first time, a woman is allowed to see her wounded husband brought back from the east. She finds him mutilated, missing an ear, half his face, an arm. It's the Jews, she screams. It's all the Jews' fault. Born in Brooklyn of German parents, I remember lines scratched on our doors. The crooked swastikas my father cursed and painted over. They appeared overnight on our steps, like frost stars on our windows. Their strict, crooked arms pointing this way and that, scarecrows, skeletons, limbs akimbo. My father cursed in his other tongue and scraped them off or painted them over. My mother bit her lips. And I remember the Volksfest at Franklin Square on Long Island every summer. Beer halls, raffles, smoked eel, loaves of dark bread, bowling alleys, boys in lederhosen, drowned by an ocean of guttural German they never learned, or learned to disavow. I remember hourly parades under the lindens, the elders' white beards, the sad depths of their eyes. I remember their talk of the North Sea, the Rhine of Lorelei, Cologne's Twin Towers, the Black Forest, the mountains, the Hamelin piper, who led everyone's children to nowhere. But I too was a child. All those years, there was one word I never heard, one name never mentioned. I do not think I will ever live a fall day when I do not think of Belsen. I'll be driving to work, or opening a window, or playing cards with friends, or reading. And I will think of Erica, glowing green, or blooming violet red over the dead at Belsen. And I will always remember speaking to the caretaker there. When spring breaks, he tills the soil, or replaces a brick along a walk, or transplants a tree, or rakes through the Erica and finds a rusty spoon, or a tin cup, or a fragment of bone, or a strand of barbed wire, or a piece of rotten board,
or the casing of a bullet,
or the heel of a shoe,
or a coin, or a button, or a bit of leather that crackles to the touch, or a pin, or the twisted threads of someone's eyeglasses, or a key, or a wedding band.
But do me no good to travel to Auschwitz. It'll do the dead no good, or anyone else any good. It'll do me no good to kneel there, me nor anyone else, alive or dead, any good. Any good at all. I've heard that in one oven, a votive candle whispers its flame. When I close my eyes, I can see and feel that candle, its pitch aura, its tongues of pitch luminescence licking the oven's recesses. A survivor, 40 years later, crawled up into an oven and lay down. What of his heart? Could it keep pumping its own pitch light there, where God's human darkness grew darkest? Rudolf Hess praised the efficiency of these ovens.
In Leipzig Street. Here, brown shirts stomp their way up to the 3rd floor, shout something about blessings from above. Several of them wheel out an upright piano, batter it through the balustrade. It falls. It is still falling to the street this day of crystal music. Inevitably, its wooden case breaks open, revealing what appears to be a glass harp. Unplaying.
We came to our city, and the people were shouting and crying. They held the Führer as a deliverer. I was in the crowd, caught in delirium, a moving box pushed forward. Closer and closer it came, and the glistening black cars through a sea of heads. The people almost touched him, but I could not lift my arm. And now, he was opposite me, and he gave me a look. It was a look of death. There was a chill of death that it's like this. I knew its in. He was the incarnation of death. I felt it in my marrow. All those who cried out to him as the Redeemer cried for death. His look froze my heart. And I raised my arm. And I cried, Heil!
In the city square that day, my books were not burned. The truth was being burned, was it not? I was lost, overwhelmed by such good fortune, and raised my voice and pretended to cheer, tasting rot in the fruit of my song, and shouted, Heil! Determined whatever else to live, I left that place, in luck, on fire, without redemption.
It's the Jews. It's all the Jews' fault. Heil!
Heil!
Hermann. England's blue channel was green when you banked your plane and headed back. But the Struckerswing, down which you sighted the countries you hated, shone brilliant as metals, didn't it? Your plane seemed almost to be on fire, didn't it? My Nazi uncle. You received the letters my father still talks and wonders about. The ones in which he told you to bail out over England and plead insanity. You got the letters, didn't you? But you kept saying you'd land in London, the rest of your squadron in a few months when the war was over, of course. Of course. But they needed you in Russia, didn't they? And the few who bailed out there were met by peasants with pitchforks and scythes, weren't they? Anyway, your plane blew up. For a moment, like a sun, your dust bailed out all over.
After Kristallnacht, Herr Neckenauer, the restorer, was overwhelmed with work from Jewish customers. Legs broken, SS runes carved into smooth surfaces. doors hammered from cabinets, shattered glass. Barbarians, he cried, to treat furniture like this.
Around the corner where I lived, a beautiful synagogue was burning. Around the corner where I lived, a beautiful synagogue was burning where I lived. My father came home in the evening. I didn't recognize him. He didn't want to talk and didn't talk. What happened to him was burning. He didn't want to talk and didn't talk. What happened to him? A beautiful synagogue where I lived. He didn't want to talk and didn't talk. What happened to him? We packed the little things we could carry. My father says he doesn't know where we are going, who will live, will die. He didn't want to talk.
My father said, don't ask from such things. He didn't want to hear it. What's the use? God damn it, be quiet. And then we were, or else. What thinks you, you're so smart? And he laughed. He'd raise his hand and threaten, but not hit. What he did during the war, a carpentry foreman for Bethlehem Steel in Brooklyn against the Axis. The bottom line? Germans make good Americans, he said, but lousy Germans.
My father came home in the evening. He didn't want to talk and didn't talk. Will they kill me? Around the corner where I lived. What we could carry, we packed. Who will live, will die. Around the corner, beautiful synagogue.
He smoked 3 packs a day and hid behind his smoke. His brothers were dead, and the Jews never mind. This was America, where anything could happen, and we shouldn't forget it.
From Belsen, a crate of gold teeth. From Dachau, a mountain of shoes. From Auschwitz, a skin lampshade. Who killed the Jews?
Not I.
Not I, cries the typist. Not I, cries the engineer. Not I, cries Adolf Eichmann. Not I, cries Albert Speer.
My friend Fritz Nova lost his father, but the official had to choose.
My friend Lou Abrams lost his brother. Who killed the Jews?
Not I.
Some men signed their papers, and some stood guard, and some herded them in, and some dropped the pellets, and some spread the ashes, and some horsed the walls, and some planted the beet, and some poured the steel, and some cleared the rails, and some raised the cattle.
And some smelled the smoke, some just heard the news.
Were they Germans? Were they Nazis? Were they human? Who killed the Jews?
The stars will remember the gold. The sun will remember the shoes. The moon will remember the skin. Who killed the Jews?
Were they Germans? Were they Nazis?
Were they human? Who killed the Jews?
Morning tour of a German bakery. The supervisor, born in maybe 1960, guides us through the processes of operation, past bins of salt and sugar, various flours, shoulder-high mixers, programmed by computers, other machines to speed the labor by which thousands may break their daily bread. I am thinking about nothing in particular, listening in the broken German of my understanding. Then we reach the bake-up ovens, some designed to receive head-high carts of rolls, some with racks of flat steel beds for loaves. I am remembering nothing. Then I ask,
if these ovens, all these machines were built in Deutschland?
Ja, he answers. I ask if baking is accomplished by electricity or gas. Gas, he answers. And then I hear something the others do not hear. I am thinking things the others are not thinking. And for once, I am glad I am the only one. For suddenly our skylight is a prayer from God. Our air surely sweet with the odor of bread.
My lily of the lamplight, my home.
Who is this SS? Who carries out a newborn, holds him or her upside down in the sink, turns on the water and sings, "Here we go, little Moses down the stream," and drowns the child. Here we go, little Moses down the stream. Here we go, little Moses down the stream.
Do you not understand? Every day, 10,000 my most valuable men die. Men irreplaceable, the best. The balance then no longer balances. The parity of power in Europe no longer exists. If the others do not cease to be. If they lived, those in the camps, those inferiors, what would be our Germany in 100 years? I am accountable to my people, to no one else. If I'm granted a bloodhound, so be it. I care nothing for posthumous fame. You must learn to hate. I had to.
This is Benson. Smell the bodies in the factory smoke. Smell the sweet gas in the clover and the grass.
This is Belzig, where the death compound's gate proclaims in Hebrew, "Welcome to the Jewish state." This is Belzig. This is SS humor.
Curse them forever in that black Valhalla.
As the Nazis entered the ghetto, we tried to hide the children, but sleep drugs we had for them, to keep them quiet in their hiding places. But when the Nazis came shouting and looking, but the drugs were often too strong or too weak. Bazunia, 4 years old, began to cry in her bureau drawer. Closest, I angled my hand in to comfort her, to quiet her, but pressed too hard. Later, mother passed daughter's body through a window to the garden below, to the frozen moonlit soil, where the Nazis would never find her. They'll never find her. Never find her.
Curse them forever in that black Valhalla.
As I chew my morning cereal, I remember the camps, how the victims tried to live on infected water, their own diminishing bodies, and their will to bear witness. In my fantasy, God is retroactive. He grants them 1 hour each day, free from fear. They will call it the angel hour.
They will each have a bowl of cereal, wheat flakes with raisins and nuts and dates drenched in milk. And they will eat very slowly when even the SS must cower and whisper, Großen Kelvin mit Mandeln,
In this way, I save so many as I chew my morning cereal.
I I do not think we can save them. I remember within my dream repeating, I do not think we can save them. I know now this is a city in Germany, 2 years after the Crystal Night. I think ahead to the hospital, the children. I do not think we can save them.
I came to the tall wall of the cemetery. Near the wall there was a pile of coal. I got between the tombstones. I was safe there for the moment. I could hear the screams of the children at night. We hid out. The next morning, they came around. Germans went round with their machine guns.
We are here, in front of the hospital. I carry a child under each arm, downstairs, out to my car. I do not think we can save them.
2 days passed. There were 5 persons. We hid in the cleansing house for corpses. Germans searched there too.
I am the last driver in this procession. Many children huddled in my car. We have left the city. Our lights tunnel the fog beneath arches of linden, towards Bremerhaven, towards the western shore. I do not think we can save them. This time, at the thought, lights whirl in my mirror. Intense fear and the screams of sirens. I begin to cry for myself, for the children.
We hid in an attic for 3 days. When the deportation stopped, we returned to the orphanage. Nobody was there.
Later, something brutal happened, of course. But as to this life I had to, I woke and cannot or will not remember. But the children, of course, were murdered. Their graves lost, their names lost, even those 2 faces lost to me. Still, this morning, inside the engine of my body, as I wept and breathed deep, for once, relief, waves of relief, as though the dreamed rose would spill its petals forever, I prayed thanks. For one night, at least, I tried to save the children, to keep them safe in my own body. I knew I would again. Amen.
I was working on his toilet. Schwanberger came home and took his jacket off. And you know what came out? A cross and a chain. I was surprised to see this. It fell out underneath his shirt as he bent over washing himself. Killing Jews with a cross around his neck. To him, it was normal, see?
Here we go, little Moses, down the street. Here we go, little Moses, down the street. Who is this SS?
Today, as SS, I rededicate myself to you. My Führer, I believe in you. I will wait for you. I will follow you. I believe in you. I will wait for you. I will follow you. To speak it is one thing. To practice it, another. Not merely imagine, but commit extinction. Commit it mercilessly, but remain decent. This has made us hard. This glorious page in our history that never shall be written. Should Germany need a tankage, we shall have it, so 10,000 Russian women perish from exhaustion. Mercilessness carries us through. Glorious mercilessness. Glory for Germany! We, the SS, risen into the power of mercilessness.
Hey,
10 kilometers from Warsaw, we came to Ramberto, where hundreds of Jews had lived before the wheel turned. Judenrein. You think they let themselves be taken? They would not fill the trucks. Men would kill trying to pull guns from guards' hands, and hands of dead women clutched at hair of SS guards, blood-patched hair everywhere, filled with mud, with war, a field of hair.
Curse them forever in their black Valhalla.
We also get many Germans because they came after us. We held a pistol in our hand this way. He shouldn't notice. And when he came close and said we should hold our hands up, we killed him. At that time, we killed 15 Germans. Before they could search us or kill us, we killed them right away, and we were gone.
Mauthausen. An SS bride to a Fraustrasse. Today, I killed another 2 inmates. How did you do that? The office worker asked. I chased them both into a vat of liquid manure, threw a crate over their head, and stood on top of it until they drowned. Here, now, his own head protrudes from that manure. Yes, I can see it. Now I want to step on it. Yes! I have stepped on it, you SSarian bastard! And here I wait into this sadist cup until disappears.
Something happened. Huh? This is history, of course. For example, November 17th, 1943 at Terezin, day of the infamous census, the SS inventing a need to know how many Jews they had, herding maybe 40,000 into a muddy field to make all day without food or water. Planes a circle overhead, machine guns guarded the edges, an evening of shrieking children. At midnight, Jews ordered back to barracks. Never mind, 300 dead. This is the census. The lost are too many, and the lost. Bah. In June 1941, at Bialystok, Poland, 700 Jews locked into their synagogue, which was then set on fire. A German police battalion, Ordnung Polizei, raided the scene. Rifles ready, in case someone might burst through a window, or a wall collapse, to allow even a child any chance of survival. In June 1942, SS guards, bored, ravenous for sport, drove dozens of Jews up from the Mauthausen pit, 186 steps, jabbed them with the rifle butts till they plunged over the edge. These SS quits for her to shout, "Achtung, parachutists!" Signed by Franz Ostergal, Commandant. There is in Berlin a document, an order of transmittal from Treblinka.
248 freight cars of clothing, 400,000 gold watches, 25 freight cars of women's hair.
Some of the clothing was kept, some poked for paper. The finest watches but never melted down. All the woman's hair was used for mattresses or dolls.
My mother-in-law remembered waiting for her Wehrmacht husband inside a station near Berlin. A locomotive thundered in, hauling a dozen cattle cars. She thought, she was not sure, that through the waiting room's glass she heard people moaning. She tried to exit to the platform. The guards kept civilians inside. She did not smell anything unusual, she told me, but did see hands beseeching the air through slats. Inside the station for several minutes, an atmosphere of extreme tension until the train departed. Her husband, future Stalingrader, said that yes, those were Jews who preceded his own arrival, one of many shipments to come. He explained that on this matter he forbade discussion. She remembered that occasion by his gift to her, a necklace of expensive amber beads with sea creatures caught and tied.
Treblinka, clothing, time in gold watches, women's hair for mattresses and dolls. Treblinka, the trains from Treblinka. The light from this lamp glows softly, gives off barely enough light to read by. You and I are children reading by the light of this lamp. We are reading a book from a new Bible. We are as quiet as the shadows. In the story, a master orders the children to come to him. They leave their trains in the station, where a clock is painted on false walls. It is always 3 o'clock. The master welcomes the children. At 3 o'clock, in 2 hours, the children are ashed.
30, 50 years later. It's getting darker. 30, 50 years later. Now the counts. I lose them. Where are they? Darker.
If it is true that I have always loved him, darker. If it is true that nothing matters, darker. If it is true that I am jealous of them, the Nazis hooked crosses, the Jews stripes, he speaks inside me, darker.
I lie on a table in the Bureau's bunker, outside his chamber in the hall. I am waiting. They do not see me, dogs nor people. This dream begins again.
He speaks now, says somehow, lower, tells me to speak to the lower power, for once to say, come back, enter, I was once alive. Darker, the air swims with words, hair twines the words, numbers along a wrist, along a red brick shower, darker. Across the street now, a cattle car stall. The skin lampshades darken under varnish.
Can I call him back? Millions call him back in deepest prayer.
Darker, always darker. SS, death's head. Oval, hollow, dead face, hole for boot.
The heroes, all dead in the first 5 minutes.
He tells me lower.
Odor of cyanide's bitter almond. The viscera smeared to the backbone shines with it for me to say it all. My hands around his neck, mouth to mouth, my lips to kiss, his eyes to sleep. We will taste this history together, my friend. Take a deep breath. Take it! Smell almond in the air!
The leader lives! Hurry! Oh. God. It would do me no good to travel to Auschwitz. It would do the dead no good. nor anyone else any good. It would do me no good to kneel there, me nor anyone else, alive or dead, any good at all.
We still see the electrified barbed wire fence, strung on swan-neck cement poles, bending inward over the grounds. Ash gray, but graceful, even beautiful, as though unintentional energy, as though these lines had been created by an angel in its anti-bird.
It would do me no good to kneel there, me nor anyone else, alive or dead, any good at all.
I want to show you, to say here it was, here, and you'd like it, as long as you were passing time there, to be led there very well, in threadbare coats or coatless, some shoeless. Here we are then, cold enough for the prisoner's breath to mist the air. East means Auschwitz. Arbeit macht frei.
Arbeit macht frei.
Work makes you free.
On the prisoner's night march through winter, one saw a milk can leaning against the tree. She ran for it, hoping there was milk in it. The guard caught her and struck her to her brittle knee in the snow. Mercy, mercy, she pleaded. He fired into her face and kicked her aside empty.
Washing a toilet with his prayer shawl. A rabbi tries to pray, but his knees burned in the stick being pushed to the back of his skull by an SS lout had broken the skin. Blood dripped from his temple curls. But that, for now, was their fill of sport. Dazed, the rabbi thought of holy oil, water purified by prayer, and of drying his blasphemed prayer shawl in the sunlight, as though his present were not his future.
I remember Irma Gresser. I knew her personally. I didn't know that she was called Irma Gresser. After liberation, I saw her picture in the paper. These things have been written about. How she dressed, what her face was like, so I know that it was she. I remember her very well. She did such terrible things. Her face, you know, was so beautiful. Large blue eyes, beautiful golden hair, beautifully dressed in such a trim SS costume, with a stick in her hand and with a big dog. She would come to us every morning. But before she arrived, we had to wait there. 4 hours for her. From 8 o'clock in the morning, they would call us into the camp square without washing, without food, without anything. And we had to stand there in the rain and the snow and the frost, that was all the same. Stand there 4 or 5 abreast until she came.
Each morning, the Germans went round with guns, finishing off those no longer able to stand up. The Germans used their rifle butts to smash the hands of the men holding their comrades upright. The sick fell to the ground. The Germans piled them onto carts, stripped them of their boots and clothing, hauled them to a pit, and loaded them with pitchforks. And threw them into the pit alongside the corpses. A sprinkling of quick lime, and that was that.
Rabbi Solomon H. remembered his son, a 9-year-old who, Solomon tells us, had half the book of Psalms by heart. While he was taken away to be murdered, he was reciting Psalms from memory. Just before being gassed, the boy said, "I am still going to pray to God. Maybe at the last minute we will still be saved."
As I dream, a gas chamber forms. Light awakens inside it. Otherwise, that space is empty. Its doors swing shut. Gas drops in. The gas fills the chamber. The light is being gassed. The killers are killing the light.
This small stone house stands by itself, 30 meters long, 30 meters wide, 5 meters high. 2 small windows with the heavy bars. A lawn out front, and a wooden shack where people undress to shower. They walk into the stone house. Concrete floor and no furniture. Maybe 200 nostrils stick out. Cyclone B. Bluish pellets dropped into a gas chamber through this hole. The 2 windows and door lined with rubber. It's a shower, all right, but gas comes out and twists their bodies into awful shapes. Gas does not put them finally to sleep. Their flesh is torn by their own or others' teeth.
Was alone, was carrying her bear with her. Was alone, was carrying her bear with her. Was alone, was carrying her bear with her. A bear to counsel and comfort and protect her. Arrived with 1,000 other children, given toys to keep them quiet. Was alone, was carrying her bear with her. Alone, carrying her bear with her. In the gas, the bear clawed free of her. In the gas, the bear clawed free of her. She had her bear as tightly as she could, but in the gas, the bear clawed free of her. The mind and heart of her bear are wood. The mind and heart of her bear are wood. Its eyes black and shining as tiny mirrors. Her bear is stuffed with wood. Was alone, was carrying her bear with her. Its eyes black and shiny. It's hard wood. It's mine wood. Was alone, was carrying her bear with her.
In Auschwitz, in its season, there occurred at least one soccer match between the SS, who ran the camp, and the SK, Sonderkommando, a special squad of mainly Jews whose daily survival depended on beating water into arrivals, shorn in sorting clothing, keeping the ovens operating, and pulling corpses from the gas.
Removing gold teeth. Slashing orifices for cords and gems. Disposing of ashes.
Forced to help kill their own people, embraced and corrupted by the satanic Aryan engine. With these existed parity.
Come! Come, said the SS. Today we must play! Their bodies were bluish red. We pulled them from the gas house by hair and ears and feet and threw them onto a flat wagon. Each wagon had room for 70 or 80 bodies. We drove the load to the crematorium. We stacked them at the entrance. Flesh does not burn like wood. It takes a long time to burn humans. Burning 70 or 80 corpses a day is slow going. There's always a fire in the oven, day and night. The whitish smoke blows out of the chimney.
I send you there!
I will send you there, said the Lagerführer, pointing to the chimney. Said the Lagerführer, pointing to the chimney. I will send you
I'll
there.
send you there! I'll send you there!
During the revolt in Crematorium 1, Auschwitz, 6 October 1944, though an SS guard had split his head open with the curved end of a cane, a member of the Sonderkommando drew a knife from his boot and thrust it into the guard's chest. In seconds, 2 other co-conspirators grabbed SS, threw open the door to our oven, and threw him head first into the flames.
Pointing to the chimneys, the Lagerführer said, I will send you there. Said the Lagerführer, I will send you
I'll
there.
send you there!
Chimneys.
To witness, to enter this essence, this silence, this blue color of sky, wreaths of smoke, bodies of children, blue in their nets of veins. A lorry draws up at the pit, under the blue sky where wreaths rise. These are the children's bodies, this our earth, blue. A lorry draws up at the pit where children smolder. The sky deepens in its shade of blue, its meditation of blue flame. The children smolder, Lord of blue, blue chest, blue brain. A lorry of murdered children draws up at the pit. Lord, your sign, children flaming in their rags, children of bone smolder, scrolls of wreaths rise on your blue bottomless sky. Wreaths, children, rise to your blue lips. This happened. This happens? I cannot keep it all. An end to it.
Games down at the Rhine. Unremembered, red with Roman blood. We have always lived in this castle. This is the room of trophies. Deer, griffin, boar, bear. There's a long hair and leathery scalp of the Chinawoman. Dragon, wolf, lampshade of Jew skin. We have always lived in this castle. At the base of this stair, a door opens to the Führer's chamber. At its center stand candelabras of eternal flames. We had sought to leave here, but the labyrinthine passages, the sheer plunge to the river, the stones that have come to caress us. But this is the hall, once lined by hearts impaled on pikes. These are the stair rails of Russian bone. This is the turret where the books are burnt.
always lived in this castle.
Under the lamplight by the barricade, darling, I remember the way you used to wait. 'Twas there that you whispered tenderly that you loved me, but always be my lily of the lamplight, my own lily, my lily.
We cannot keep it all. It's you. Gypsy. Lunatic. Slav. Syphilitic. Homosexual.
We cannot keep it on. The German who did the shooting, sitting at the edge, his gun across his knees and smoking a cigarette, while more naked victims descend steps cut into the pit's clamoring over the heads of those already dead there, laying themselves down. He thought he heard some speak in low voice. Listen.
You must learn to hate. I had to.
We cannot keep it all. And Franken Belson, Jack Boots, crump. Bodies stacked, wedged, one on top of another. Some still moving, lifting arms to show life.
And we knew they were all dead, said Horst of Auschwitz. When the screaming stopped.
Mercilessness. Glorious mercilessness. Glory for Germany!
Ist das die deutsche Kultur? This vomit, at last, this last cleansing, and an end to it, if it is possible. If I will it now, if I will it now, an end to it.
Salida Nix!
His will be done, and kill them. Something deeper dying, but kill them. Cognac and nightmares, but kill them. Eichmann's units! The visions, while trains kept coming. Families with photograph albums falling out of the cars. The books of the camps and prisons, the albums imprinting the air as now millions approach. These trucks arriving with more, these trains arriving with more from Prince Albrechtstrasse, from the mental strain on Ollendorf's men, from the ravine at Babi Yar, from the future, from the pond at Auschwitz, and the clouds of ash, from numberless mass graves where Christian prayer and Kaddish now slow into undersong.
A survivor, years later, allowed himself to wonder where the dead were. All those hung from beams in their own barns, slaughtered against walls, herded into their own orchards, shot into ditches, starved in cattle cars to camp, who screamed to God in the agony showers and burned their way to graves in the empty sky. But then at last, he saw one thin woman in a cloud, in a blue dress, wisping away from her, dress he bought her 50 years before.
There you are! There you are!
And there, as more appeared from the west, in bursts of sunlight and cloud.
Whole families of them, streets, villages of them, whole cities of them, reaper.
Returning on rails of sunlight by sweeps of clouds, in carriages of burnished clouds. Here I am,
Here I am, here.
Here I am.
Oh, Deutschland, my soul. This soil, resettled forever here, remembered. The families, the children, the visions. The visions.
We're gonna take about a 5-minute recess, let people use the restroom, and then gather for our community conversation.